Hello and welcome once again to another episode of Take One with me, Silverfilter. And as promised in the previous tutorial, we're going to be picking up on the tips and tricks with LFOs, with using your and playing around with the LFO on your Reason module. Now, different from the last one was is we're going to be discussing more on using it in the synth. And of course, since we're also picking up from the last episode, I'm gonna go over it and review few of the things I discussed in using the Dr. Rex file, using the Dr. Rex player. So we're gonna start with the Dr. Rex loop. I'm just gonna mute the synth. Now, like last week, we're just gonna pull up the amount of the LFO. So as you can hear, just by changing the waveform of the LFO, you can make interesting sounds already and from your loops, or you can do it with your panning. If you choose the oscillator, so let's see. So you've heard quite a few variations of just one basic house loop just by playing with the LFO. Now with using it now with your synth, we can also create very interesting sounds just by playing around with the LFO settings. So we just since the drum loop is pretty busy, just gonna make something more simpler using just the LFO pattern here. Okay. Now you're gonna hear a very simple bass pattern that I made earlier. Now I'm just using the subtractor here, but of course you can use since subtractor is a subtractive synth. You can use this basically with any other synth inside Reason, that has an LFO section, and of course with any other subtractive synth that you are using with your DAW. So okay. Okay, so you can hear the bass. It's okay. The pattern's okay, but I particularly I particularly chose this certain patch because um, the sounds kind of different, and it's it changes in a matter of a few milliseconds. The sound changes, the filter opens. There's a lot happening with the patch. Now with that happening and with the LFO uh, applied onto it, uh, we can make something really nice out of from it. So once again, we pull up the LFO. Usually the last two waveforms down here are more in the random stuff. So over time the pattern changes, and it's not as consistent as the first four waveforms. And this one's just with a smoother glide. Anyway, then you can just change what the LFO is affecting. So okay, now just a little trick here. So for example, you want the same LFO happening for example for a particular pattern using just with a particular uh, machine in Reason. So you can just flip your rack and modulation output. So the LFO now will control the modulation in your synth. So it's really up to you, like how you wanna flip it. So for example, we're gonna use the LFO to control the amp level of our synth. So here, so I'm just gonna mute this. So I'm going to turn off the LFO on the synth so you can hear the changes that the LFO on the Rex player's doing on the subtractor. Of course, then we can just move it. So we'll just go back to the Now, on its own, just with these two, the Rex and the Subtractor, it may sound weird, like you might think that I won't be able to use that sound. But in the context of a whole track where where you have a bunch of instruments and a bunch of loops running, you know, as a little stuff like these, uh, little stuff like these things can, can drastically improve and add to your to the mix, to the whole mix. So of course, don't take this out of context, like you're just thinking about these two particular instruments, like I won't be able to use that sound, it sounds weird, and so on and so forth. So just to now, the thing here is, now the Rex LFO is now controlling the synth, but the synth still has its own LFO. So the neat thing here is, you can still use a LFO of the subtractor synth to add more to what's happening already. So for example, we have so just to make it the example more clearer, I'm just gonna use a setting. Okay, so now it's building because of the waveform that I chose here. The sound is building now with the LFO, the Rex LFO controlling the synth. Now, as I said, the LFO of the synth is still working. So if we move it and use it, have a quicker rate here, you can hear that the LFO is still working on the synth. So you can still hear the build up caused by the LFO of the Rex to the subtractor, but the subtractor LFO is still working also on its own. So yeah, it's like you have two LFOs working for the subtractor. So there. Yeah, I think we've covered a little more than enough ground with the LFO, and I hope you picked up a thing or two. Do subscribe if you just saw this video for the first time, or have come across my channel for the first time. Do subscribe, and for next episode, I'm gonna be discussing uh, vocal chops using redrum. Now, that's a fun topic for me, especially for you remixers out there who wanna do remixes using Reason and you don't have a record. It's one valuable tool to use. So wait for it, and thanks for watching, and God bless.